Hi, I'm Sam Whitty. This is my Tech and Society Chapter 9 video board over environmental issues. Um, Dr. Riggler gave us three questions, as he usually does to answer this week. First, describe the two main environmental issues for Kansas. Um, Two, what are the thoughts after watching the three videos and reading the EPA's webpage? Are you concerned about the growing amounts of waste in the world? And three, describe the recent articles from the Wall Street Journal related to this topic. And the topic, again, is environmental issues. So, we're going to lead off with the first question about the two main environmental issues in Kansas. And what I found for those is that the two main environmental issues in Kansas are air pollution and water pollution. And air pollution is the biggest concern. It's caused by a lot of different things: industrialization, mining, uh, farming, fires, and vehicular pollution, which a couple of those go hand in hand. Um, Industrialization and mining, I'd say those go hand in hand. Industrialization uses lots of big machinery, so does mining. Industrialization is like factories and stuff, and a lot of those use, coal and other resources in order to build uh, and other stuff like that, refineries. Then they let toxic waste up into the air. So, um, then farming and fires. A lot of farmers actually use fires. They use controlled burns to burn down old fields or anything like that, and to release nutrients back into the ground and stuff like that. But in turn, it is actually burning stuff, so it's still releasing toxic chemicals into the air. Um, Vehicular pollution. We all drive cars. Um, if you ride a bike, kudos to you. But in driving any type of vehicle, burning gas, you're emitting CO2 into the air. So all those are the main causes of air pollution, and is a big concern in Kansas, and I can see why. The second is water pollution, which is what, after reading what I read, it's one of the biggest global warming causes is actually water pollution. And I'll talk a little bit more about global warming and water pollution later from the videos. So water pollution is caused by oil leaks, chemical dumping, nuclear waste, and agriculture runoffs. And I can definitely see nuclear waste and agriculture runoffs. We don't have that many nuclear plants in Kansas. I think we only have like one or two. But I don't know where their waste goes. As far as if something does leak into the ground, I could see it going into an underground water system or something. I know my grandpa is a farmer, and he has to be careful about what he sprays on fields because he's part of a watershed, and the water district he is in, with him having water on his farming ground, he has to be careful because eventually the chemicals he is spraying onto his crops and stuff will seep back into the water supply. So you've got to be just very careful of what's going on when farming like that. And some farmers aren't. Oil leaks and stuff like that, chemical dumping. Most oil companies will frack to try to get as much oil out of the ground as possible, and then some oil companies do not pull the water back out, or whatever they were using as a fracking liquid. They don't pull it back out of the ground, so that in turn is water pollution, which is kind of alarming because I know there's a lot of fracking going on in Kansas, so, and Oklahoma and Texas, but I live in Kansas, so that's what we're going to talk about. On to question number 2 now. What were your thoughts about watching the three videos? The three videos, the first video was about water pollution, the second video was about the zero waste city, and the third video was about China and its waste ban crisis. So, first video being about water pollution, kind of going to tie in back into what I was just talking about. But this is more categorized towards the oceans, and so this video is talking a lot about a lot of plastic pollution. Save the turtles, get your metal straws, and all that. There are three huge garbage islands in the earth. One's in the Indian Ocean, one's in the Pacific Ocean, and one's in the Atlantic Ocean, I believe, if I'm remember correctly, if I took the right notes. The largest island is actually bigger than Alaska, and that one is off the west coast. Kind of in between the west coast and Hawaii, a little more north than Hawaii, but still. And I guess if you count like all the little particles of trash spanning from this island, it actually comes out to a size that is bigger than Alaska, which is alarming because Alaska, if you didn't know this, fun fact of the day, is about half the size of the continental United States. So it's a pretty big island of trash, and most of it's plastic floats and stuff. And then as like this plastic starts to break down, it gets on stuff and it starts killing animals, which is not good. And this video said some fact about 700 species have been killed or hurt by marine waste, and I can definitely see that. And I think it was over a 30-year span, over 700 species have been hurt. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. And they're saying something about by 2050, there's gonna, like, pound for pound marine waste is gonna be equal, if not more, than the actual pound for pound animals in the ocean, which is just alarming. It's kind of crazy. And then it also said about some island countries have actually issued or declared a garbage emergency because their nice fancy beaches that they have resorts on and stuff might be fine one day, but the next morning they'll just be covered in garbage. And they're losing money off of it, first of all. No duh. And then it's just bad for the environment, and people are starting to realize that. So that was what the first video was about. The second video was about Zero Waste City, which was about San Francisco and how they're trying to lessen their carbon footprint, I guess, by basically plans on becoming the first Zero Waste City by 2020. San Francisco has diverted 80% of its garbage or anything like that away from landfills, and it talked about mostly composting and recycling, like plastic and glass and aluminum into other products of plastic and glass and aluminum, and then composting, taking any edible waste or food scraps, paper, all that, and wood, grass clippings, anything like that. You take all that and they compost it up, and their composting process takes about 60 days to accomplish, but then they let local vineyards and farmers buy back all this compost. So actually they're kind of making money off this, or at least cutting their deficit down on what they did for the haulaway process and all of that, because vineyards and local vineyards and farmers around California and San Francisco are actually using this compost from San Francisco, from the locals in San Francisco, and putting nutrients back in their farmland and stuff, which I thought was kind of cool. So that is what the Zero Waste City of San Francisco was about. That's what that video was about. The next one is the China waste ban crisis. China is also trying to lower their carbon footprint. They're the biggest buyer of recyclable goods in the world, and they have started cutting down and banning some stuff. And the United States sells a lot of recyclables to China. A lot. I know, big surprise, right? What don't we do with China? China is cutting down on bringing recyclable waste in, so that's hurting a lot of recycling companies and stuff around the world. I know they were saying in the United States alone that their recycling piles, cubes, these like 1-ton cubes of recyclable material are just sitting out. Cubes that used to accumulate for only about 12 days have now accumulated into a couple months, and they've been trying to find other countries to buy our recyclable waste, pretty much. And like they've got Indonesia, India, Vietnam, Japan have been buying them, but Japan and Vietnam aren't that big of countries, so they just don't have the the space to buy a lot of it, and we've already doubled our selling to those countries. So without China, it's kind of a cluster, if you know what I mean. Okay, third and final question of the day is about my Wall Street Journal articles I found over environmental issues, which is the topic, which we've been talking about the whole time if you're just joining us. So my first Wall Street Journal article was about New York City and their city council voting on an overhaul for the commercial waste collection system that they have for New York. And so what they're trying to do is, one of the councilmen came up with a bill that he's trying to get passed to require private trash collectors and carters to bid on 20 zones within the 5 boroughs. The goal is to have a single company operating in each of the zones. So 20 zones, 20 companies. This will improve the environmental. This is all kind of to improve the environmental standing and safety issues of New York. Like, the way it's gonna work is, hopefully they're gonna be bidding on these zones, and there's gonna be, I guess, incentives for the companies, the trash companies and stuff, that are more environmentally friendly. They'll get more points towards their bids and stuff like that. So maybe they'll get a bigger zone than another place, which will make them more money, yada yada yada. They also, for as the incentives, hopefully they're hoping to get most of their trash trucks, over 50% of their trash trucks, to be electric by 2030, which is kind of a big step for New York. I mean, they've got a lot of trash trucks. This, and cutting into zones and only having one company per zone, will also cut down on a lot of truck traffic. It said they'll cut down on over 1 million miles, estimated of 1 million miles of truck traffic through New York, which is kind of astounding. I mean, it might unclutter the streets just a tiny bit, not a lot, but a tiny bit for New York, which will make things nice. So I thought that was kind of a cool article. My next article is about climate activists. Activist countries fuel record year for green bonds. If you don't know what a bond is, it's kind of like a loan from another country, except, like, this country kind of gets credit for whatever you put your money towards, in short sense. So these green bonds is money being put back into environmentally friendly programs. So Chile is take their financial pitches to the Netherlands, Nordic Europe, as they said in the article. The Netherlands specifically gave them green bonds. They're using these green bonds to help fund environmentally friendly renewable energy facilities, mass transport systems, and to try to help their environment down south in Chile and all that jazz. So they gave them bonds. So all the things, and hopefully it's economically healthy for the Netherlands, is that what they're banking on, is that while these renewable energy facilities and mass transport systems are coming about, they're going to be making money back off their initial investment or their loan money that they loaned Chile. So that's kind of what that second article is about. So those are my articles. Those are the answers to the 3 questions that Mr. Riggler gave us to answer about environmental issues this week in Chapter 9. I hope you'd enjoyed. I'm Sam Whitty. Thank you for joining me.